Welcome to the Good Good Podcast. I'm your host, Dee Talley, mama, licensed acupuncturist, herbalist, and embodiment coach. Here we dive deep into the realms of energy, consciousness, awareness, empowerment, and personal transformation to help you create a more vibrant and juicy life. Hello, beauties. It's Dee Talley. This is the Good Good Podcast. How inconvenient. Sometimes the urge to record is like at inconvenient times. It's like almost 10 o'clock on a weeknight. And I was like, I'm just going to do this another time. Like, no big deal. And it's like, nope. Gotta do it. Okay, so something is telling me that this is a really important message, or that somebody here needs to hear what I'm about to say, or whatever it is. I'm going to trust source. I'm going to trust God divine and all the things. Okay. So I'm here to talk to you today about the gift wound complex and to tell some stories that maybe you've heard before, or maybe you haven't. But I want to start by saying not sometimes. I want to start by saying pretty much always your biggest, deepest, most painful, gaping wounds become the richest source of gift. And I know how hard that can be to hear for somebody who is really suffering, or who's really in the wound portion of things. Because, as we say, there's nothing really constant except change. So even if you're going through hell, keep on going, because there is something else on the other side. And that is a gift, potentially. And I know it's very confusing to hear. Like, oh, you may be thankful for this experience that is happening to you right now, because on the other side of that is a gift. So I'm calling this the gift wound complex. I actually don't know if that's what it's called. I have no idea. I'm making this up, but I have real, true lived experience here around the gift wound complex. And this is a theme that has come up over and over again this week. And again, it's like when the themes come up, it's important to listen to. Also, random aside, the thing that has been coming up in clinic is gout. I have treated so many cases of gout this week. It's Tuesday. Why am I treating so much gout? Anyway, I digress. You're welcome. Okay, gift wound. So, when I was 21 years old, I told this in the My Story episode, but maybe you didn't catch it, so I'm just going to repeat it. When I was 21 years old, I was raped and sexually assaulted, and it was a really terribly traumatic experience for me. And I was reeling coming off of this experience of being just so violated, and I just felt so ripped up inside. I felt like, how could I have let him do that to me? What does that say about me? I grew up in a family that my mother always said, you teach people how to treat you. And I just felt like it was my fault. I felt like there were a million things that I could have done. I wasn't satisfied with the way that my body decided to freeze. I hated the fact that I let him do that to me, right? This is like the story that I started to tell myself. And I was already, like I said, I was reeling. And so at the time, obviously, there was no protection involved, and I was very concerned that I maybe got an STD. So I made the decision to go to my gynecologist's office, and I had just had my annual exam. So it was like a few weeks ago, maybe a month prior, I got my annual exam. So when they're doing this like emergency, basically, appointment for me to go in, they put me with whoever provider could see me because I needed to get in ASAP. Okay, so I get in with this provider who I don't really know, I've never seen before, and it was a horrific experience. It was horrific. This particular person was not trauma informed and said all the wrong things and made it so much worse. So I'll explain. So I go in and I say, she says, "Why are you here?" And I said, "I'm here because I'd like an STD check." She said, "Well, you just got an STD check a few weeks ago. Why do you need another?" Literally, why do you need another? Anyway, like for somebody who's even sexually active, or who maybe had an experience with somebody that, something came up, it's like that question even is just like, kind of set me on the wrong foot. Anyway, And I told her, I said, I was raped 2 days ago. I'd like to have a check because there was no protection. And the first thing that came out of her mouth was, well, what were you wearing? And I was so dumbfounded. I really was. I was like, I felt like she struck me. Like I was like, and I answered because I was just like, I mean, my nervous system was all jacked up anyway, but I was like, she's the provider, right? She's in charge. Answer, right? So I said, a t-shirt and jeans. And she said, well, was there alcohol involved? Literally the next question. No reaction, no nothing. Was there alcohol involved? No, there was not. And from that experience, I was already reeling from this experience. And this particular person impacted me in such a strong way. And I was so hurt. And I was like, wow, she blames me too. And she thinks that this was my fault. And I was like, it took me a while to come to terms with, it doesn't matter whether I was wearing nothing, whether I was just walking naked on the street, whether I was wearing a saucy, beautiful piece of lingerie, whether I had my titties square out, whether the person could see my labias. Like, when you say no, it means no. And when you say no, when you scream no, it still means no. When you whisper no, it still means no. So from that experience, I was reeling, and it took me a while to get to the place of coming to the other side of it. And I'm talking years, right? Because truly shattering life experience for me as a young person. And what I vowed and what I took away from that experience is that it is so important to me as a practitioner, as a mom, as a friend, to hold that safe and sacred space for other people. Because healing environments can only occur when we feel safe. That is it. Full stop. Period. Full stop. You can only begin to heal when you begin to feel safe. Safe in your external environments, safe in your internal environments, safe. The impact of what this practitioner did rippled through my whole life and was the reason that I felt just so passionate about making sure that everything is safe. We're talking asking for consent for everything. We're talking listening compassionately. We're talking non-judgmental. We are talking being so close to and this is why I'm a fucking freak about it. If you have ever seen me in my clinic before, you know that I am a freak about it. I am a freak about draping. I am a freak about covering the body in the areas that I do not need access to. I am very mindful of how close I am to any private areas. I will always tell somebody, and I will always ask, is it okay that I touch you here? Is it okay that because safety is so important. And I've had these experiences not related to sexual assault and rape, but I've had these experiences like at the gynecologist where your pap smear starts and you didn't even know it was going to start. Like, yes, I know I'm at the gynecologist to get a pap smear. It'd be nice if you said, may I start your exam? I'm going to open your labias to stick the fucking speculum in. You could at least ask, right? You could at least make it known. Is it okay that I start? I'm going to do this, right? Because people who have been traumatized need a heads up. They need a heads up. They need to know what to expect. They need to know what is happening next. Why? Because what happened to them occurred on fast forward. It occurred without them having the ability to say no, slow, stop, like, please, right? Step by step by step. It has to be that way. And this wound that I had has actually turned out to be the greatest gift that I could ever have, because I have had the ability and the privilege of cultivating the safest, most beautiful, precious space to hear women and men and all people tell their stories with every part of them and I've had the privilege to hold that space and to just be a pair of ears to listen. And sometimes that is truly what we need in the healing process. Sometimes there truly is no answer. There truly is no fixing. It's like the first step actually is just for you to hear me. And I have been able to hear the most precious and meet people where they're at, meet women where they're at in all of their traumas, in all of their rapes, in their miscarriages, in their abuse, being abused, in their triumphs, in their glories, in every single way. And this is why I am so on fire and passionate about it. And I'm also so on fire and passionate about people understanding the impacts that they have on others, on themselves. And let me be clear. Let me be so fucking for real right now. It is a choice what you decide to do with that wound, right? I could have said, oh, woe is me. I'm never going to see a provider again. I'm never going to the doctor again. I don't even care. This happened to me and I'll never be the same. And I'm going to be traumatized like this forever. Or, I could have gone the complete opposite way. And I did that. I was a true victim, a true woe is me. And I think a lot of times that portion of things is necessary. And I could do a whole another show about that. But it's important to understand that at the other side of that, there are choices to be made about how you want to understand, be compassionate, work with the wounds. I could have felt shame. I could still feel shame forever and ever. Amen. Like, there are choices. And now I'm not saying it in extremes. I'm not saying I never feel shame. I'm not saying I always feel like a triumphant survivor, right? There are moments, but it's what do you do with the big stuff? Like, what do you do with the wound? So if you're a person who doesn't know what your gifts are, what I would say to you is look at the most painful parts. What is it about those painful experiences that you have then decided and fostered and bolstered this strength to decide to relate to it differently, to make changes in the world, to bring your positive energy and your healing energy to the world, right? I was having a conversation with one of my patients and we were talking, she's in education. We were talking about the people the children she likes to be with the most. And she said, well, my boss actually told me that I'm better with the older kids. And I don't know, because I do really like the younger kids. And she stopped and she said, well, maybe it's because when I was their age, I never really had someone like me. Yes, exactly that. You felt like you didn't have the support that you needed when you were a young teen. Like, and now you get to be, it's not that you have to be, it's that you get to be that person for these impressionable young individuals. What a gift. That's amazing. And you can think about it in all of the painful parts. What this does is it shines a little bit of light on something that feels so dark it could swallow you whole. And that, my friend, is part of the path to healing the big stuff. I know, easy for you to say, right? Maybe you might be thinking that. Wow, easy for her to say. She already healed herself. No. I'm a lifelong learner, baby. I'm still healing. I'll never wake up one day and be like, I'm healed. Because I still have my triggers. I still have those sticky parts. I still feel shame and regret and those uncomfortable feelings. And it's not in extremes. Two things can be true at the same exact time. And they can be conflicting. They don't have to be in agreement. Your wounds are your biggest gift. So if it feels safe to you, we're going to do a little exercise. Because, practicality. Let's not just recognize it. Let's kind of do something about it. If it feels safe to you, I want you to check in with yourself. First, I want you to notice the quality of your breath. So we're coming back into ourselves here, people. We're coming back into our bodies. Notice the quality of your breath without trying to change it. Just be with yourself. If it feels safe to you, I want you to pick out one painful experience. Think of one painful experience. Don't go crazy. Just go as far as what feels safe to you. And if you have to look around your room and remember that you're safe and just say it back to yourself, you can do that, right? I want you to ask yourself, what changed in me after that experience? Now I want you to ask, what qualities or strengths did I build in order to survive, in order to cope, in order to heal? Some people feel such shame at some of these qualities, but it was what was necessary for survival. And I think that is admirable. Now, are those strengths still with me now? Could what I learned be useful to somebody else? How has this shaped your values, your work, your relationships, and your life? I want to offer you a fill-in-the-blank poem. Because, yes, I am that corny bitch sometimes, okay? I'm going to put this in the show notes just for fun, just so you can actually fill in the blank if you so choose, okay? I used to think my wound made me weak, but now I see that it made me blank. I once wished I could forget it, but now I know it taught me blank. This place that I broke open is also where my medicine pours out. So this wound, it didn't break you, baby. You've survived 100% of your bad days, and you're still here to tell the story. Those wounds don't make you sad, pathetic, lonely, or even less worthy of anything that is your birthright. Pleasure, love, fun, joy, ease, contentment, excitement, titillation, wetness, right? Juiciness. It doesn't make you any less. This is where the light begins to shine in. This is where you get to turn your light and shine it on the world. That is a gift. You are a gift. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you in the next episode.